So this is an ongoing debate that I see online, like how active is the mob still? Are they still around? Yeah, they're still around, not as much as they were back in the day. But obviously, one of the reasons why it's not a good idea to do business with them is that you could get, whacked by them. But also because the feds are still on them, man. There was a kind of like a joke back in the day, like around the 80s when they were still kind of at the height of their power, that the FBI stands for Forever Bothering Italians, and they definitely were on them big time. It was the most powerful criminal organization. But anybody that does business with them, you risk getting caught up in whatever surveillance that they have going on with them, and that appears to have been what happened with a guy from Wooddale. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison last Friday for running an illicit sports gambling ring that was uncovered as part of a larger federal investigation into the Chicago outfit. So this is according to the Chicago Tribune. So he personally was not like part of the mob, but he was, doing business at a time when they were being watched, and they ended up seeing what he had going on too. So he's 39. He's a former mixed martial arts fighter who currently works for a national cannabis firm. And he pled guilty back in January to one count of running an illegal gambling business. So he took a plea agreement. They offered him a plea deal with prosecutors, and he admitted that in 2015 and 2016, he ran a team of at least 5 agents that recruited gamblers and placed wagers on games through online company based in Costa Rica. So to avoid detection, they said, this is according to Tribune, he paid an underling to use MoneyGram to wire cash to Costa Rica under aliases like Ira Goldberg and Brian Siegel, according to the plea deal. Okay, so there was some sneaky stuff going on here, but the feds got to the bottom of it, and he admitted in the plea that he hid his substantial income as a bookie in bankruptcy proceedings in an effort to avoid paying a $1.5 million civil judgment filed against him as part of a lawsuit over a motorcycle accident in DuPage County. So this, we're not talking about like mob business here. This is like just funny financial dealings. Okay, he was supposed to pay 1.5 million because somebody had taken him to court in civil court and had sued him because he just gotten into this auto accident, but he was avoiding paying it. In September of 2015, he testified under oath in the bankruptcy case that his occupation was, quote, mainly painting, but also carpentry, and that he made only $7,500 in gross earnings that year. So he's claiming to make only $7,500 in an entire year. And that, if you have anything going on like in your lifestyle that's even remotely like not rock bottom, okay, that's going to easily be exposed. So before the sentence was handed down, he stood in court and apologized to the U.S. District Judge for his actions, saying that he's turned his life around since voluntarily quitting the gambling business in 2016 before he even knew that he was under investigation. He said, I changed my life around. I'm just hoping to get a second chance. He was not accused of being in the mob. Okay, so they never accused him of that, but he was captured on federal wiretaps in 2016 and 2017 while the FBI was attempting to build racketeering cases involving the Elmwood Park and the Grand Avenue street crews. So this was only 8 years ago. Okay, so for everybody who's saying that the mob is gone, the Elmwood Park and the Grand Avenue street crew, this was only 8 years ago. And Elmwood Park, you guys have seen that in a bunch of my videos, and Grand Avenue because that's where I was born at. Harlem Avenue University, it's like the border of Chicago and Elmwood Park. Harlem Avenue is like the border right there. East of that is Chicago, west of that is Elmwood Park. So that is where one of the main crews. And as far as them being active over there today, when I was living there, this was back in the 80s. It was real active back then. Today, to be honest, I haven't seen too much involving them going on around there. But I'm not back there a whole lot anymore, I admit. So I don't know. But anyways, they were trying to get them. And the investigation was focused on 2 of the outfit's rackets over there, prostitution and gambling. Okay, so that's according to court records. The prostitution, over there, I don't see any of that going on, around the Elmwood Park area. And I never saw that growing up either, in that area. So anyways, among those under investigation was a close relative of an outfit loan shark. And the guy's name was Joseph Gagliano, or Joe Gags is his nickname. He's a twice convicted mob bookmaker, and he's reported to be a capo in the Elmwood Park crew. And there's also a gambling boss named Marco D'Amico, street name The Mover, And he, at one time, was the second in command in the Elmwood Park crew. He died in 2020 at the age of 84. So they were still like surveying these guys at that age. So Frontier was captured on wiretaps talking and meeting with Gagliano's relative, as well as a guy named Gene Casano, or Gino, who's a mob-connected West Suburban businessman and bookie who was later charged with extortion related to a customer's beating over an unpaid juice loan, according to court records. So loan sharking, that's always been one of the mob's biggest hustles. And the street gangs, I don't really see getting into that too much, but loan sharking is big for the mob. Recordings made in the case captured one episode where Frontier threatened a gambler who was having trouble paying back a $25,000 loan. And he said, quote, "I swear on my mother, if I don't get my money back," he basically threatened to beat him up. So in another recording about that debtor, Frontier told an associate he's getting beat up no matter what now. So obviously that's battery and assault, so it's a crime. But there was no beating ever occurred on that, though, and the conversation showed that Frontier, at one point in time, that was operating his business through the use of threats and violence. So another bettor told investigators that when he did not have the money to pay his gambling debt, Frontier put him in contact with somebody from whom he could borrow money. Okay, so when that bettor showed up to meet the person, he was blindsided and beaten by several men who told him to pay up or else, according to an FBI affidavit. So in arguing last year for a hearing on whether the FBI misled the judge who approved the wiretaps, Frontier's attorney, who's a guy named Francis LaPuma, said investigators unfairly lumped Frontier in with real mobsters and relied on informants with messed up pasts who often gave conflicting accounts. So he's saying you can't believe these people, and he's saying you're basically putting this guy in the stuff you had going on with the mafia, and he's not part of that life. So he said if you look at the mob figures that they talk about, all the way back to Joey Lombardo and James Marcello and the murder of the Spilotro brothers, there's pages and pages of their criminal history in there. But they don't give the same treatment to their informants. So, in arguing Friday for a sentence for 1 year in prison, LaPuma said that Frontier's bookmaking lasted only for a short period and never grew to a scale typically seen in federal prosecutions. He said he noted that Frontier was abusing alcohol at the time, following the tragic death of his brother, and later made an independent decision on his own to shut down his gambling business and stop hanging out with people who led him astray. You know, he's basically making the argument that, look, before he even knew he was being watched, he stopped doing this. He said he expelled all the negative influences in his life, and he didn't name anybody specific. He said he has no association with them in years. So in the 8 years since ending his bookmaking, Frontier made a name for himself at a place called Verano, which is a leading cannabis company where he helped the business nationally and has recently transitioned into a role helping develop new products. So he's also expecting his first child. He said nowadays you can find him in one of three places: at work, at the gym, or at home. So he's basically saying the guy's leading a clean life now. He was among a handful of defendants charged as part of the Wire outfit probe. Okay, and by outfit, guys, again, that refers to the mob in Chicago. Okay, specifically, it doesn't refer to New York or any place else. That's the name of the Chicago mob. Though none of the reputed bosses who were under investigation have been indicted. So also charged was a woman named Jessica Nesbitt, who's a Chicago madam, okay, who was running a fetish and prostitution business out of her near West Side condo building and was suspected of paying protection money to Gagliano's relative. She pled guilty and was sentenced last year to home confinement and probation. So Casano, meanwhile, was charged along with an associate named Giacchino Gaglioni, whose nickname is Jack, with extortion related to a juice loan beating out in Addison, and all charges against them were dismissed last month after their trial ended in a mistrial. So very interesting, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, man. But the mob it's still around, but it's like a lot of stuff like this. It's not all the stuff that was going on back in the day. You can see as recently as 2017, they were trying to take down some of these guys, and anybody that has any connection with any of them. I mean, this guy wasn't even directly connected with any of the mob members. It was just like relatives and associates of them that he was just loosely dealing with, not even directly being part of their business. But anybody, who deals with them on any level is going to get basically seen by the FBI, because these guys, I mean, it's still like, if you bring down a street gang member or whatever, that's one thing, as far as law enforcement. But if you bring down a mafia member, even today, I mean, that's like considered a much bigger deal. Even in the media, that's like a much bigger deal. So you guys let me know what you think in the comment section, man. But yeah, it doesn't pay in the end, definitely. This is your boy Chicago News. I'm out.